when it gets to so-called best corporate practices, I think the people who talk about them don't really know what the best practices are. They just know what they think are the best practices. And they determine that based on what will sell, not what will work. And so I like our way of doing things better than theirs, and I hope to God we never follow their best practices.
Yeah. I'd like to point out one thing on independent directors. I mean, I've been on 20 public company corporate boards, not counting any Berkshire or its subsidiaries. So I've seen a lot of corporate boards operate, and the independent directors, in many cases, are the least independent. I mean, if the income you receive as a corporate director, which typically may be around $250,000 a year now, if that's an important part of your income, and you hope that some other corporation calls the CEO and says, "How's so-and-so as a director?" and the current CEO, your CEO says, "Oh, he's fine, never raises any problems," and then you get on another board at $250,000, and that's an important part. How in the world is that independent? I mean, I really, just on observation, I can't recall particularly any independent director where their income was from the board was important to them. I can't recall them ever doing anything in board meetings or committee meetings that actually was counter to the interests. They put them on the comp committee. I mean, they're just not going to upset the apple cart because what they're. And I'd probably behave the same way in the same position. I mean, if $250,000 a year is important to you, why in the hell would you behave in a way that's going to cause your CEO to say to the next CEO, say, "This guy acts up a little bit too much, you really better get somebody else"? It's the way it works, but they've got these
I think it's a little worse than Warren's telling you.
Yeah, Charlie and
It's really awful.
It was awful. I mean,
And not only that, Warren and I we occupy the niche for pomposity very well ourselves. We don't need any more of it.
Charlie and I were on one board. Well, I was on one board, actually, a long time ago, where we owned a very significant percentage of the company. And the rest of the board was almost exclusively customers of the company, but not owners. They had absolutely token holdings. And at one point, we were looking at something where a tax decision was being made in terms of a distribution of some securities. And it was a lot of money was involved. And one of the other directors said, "Well, let's just swallow the tax." Well, his swallowing amounted to about $15 or something, or some amount of And I said, "Let's parse this sentence out. Let's swallow the tax. Let us swallow the tax." So who wants to swallow an equal amount to me? You don't get invited to be on boards if you belch too often at the dinner table.
Well, Blue Chip Stamps, we had a director who said, "I don't see why you guys should be so important just because you own all the shares."
Yeah, Charlie and I used to have to cool off after the Blue Chip Stamps meetings because we and Rick Guerin owned what percent probably?
50%.
Yeah, 50%, and they'd appointed all the.
They were all members of the Rotary Club.
It came out of a government settlement or something, and it was not an ideal form of decision making, and they just had a different calculus in their mind that we didn't, and I can understand it, but I'm not going to replicate it. Okay, Greg.